opportunity within destinations and among operators and attractions to actually partner and share their customers and generate mutual benefit from that. So another big theme that we have been talking about over the last couple of days, what exactly do travelers want? Tours, attractions, experiences, what is going on here? Do travelers really want to just go to a destination and hang out with locals? Or do they want to experience those classic attractions? So this is one of the things that we looked at in this study very closely. We want to get a sense of, okay, how important are those classic attractions, visiting those icons, or connecting with locals and having local experiences? So we asked all of these younger travelers, and what do we see? Not really huge differences. It's a little bit more pronounced, interestingly, among the European and North American travelers, a little bit. But what we really see here is that while the classic attractions, they're a bit more popular, really, there are a lot of travelers who want to do both. So the fundamental takeaway from here is there is lots of demand for both. This is not an either or. This is not doing a classic tour versus touring with the local. It's quite possible that those travelers are going to do the very same things on the same trip. So what should operators do? How do we think about this and how do we serve, especially if you are more of a classic tour provider or an attraction? How do you tap into this? And we heard a little bit from different operators over the last couple of days, such as Susan from World Entertainments. And so how can we kind of distill all of this into some general principles? So what we talk about, or the way I think of it is, especially if you're a classic operator or attraction, try to offer something insider. So what does that mean? So there's three ways of thinking about this. So the first is special access. So like a backstage pass. In other words, travelers don't just necessarily today want to see the thing and experience it, but maybe they want to see how it's done, right? So it's not just going to an amazing restaurant or someone's home and having a fantastic meal, but actually learning how they cook the food, learning the ingredients, going to the stores and how they collect it and how they choose one ingredient over another. Something else is like creating something special, a special treat or something that's unique that they can only get from you, and also something that is sensory, that is physical, that immerses the traveler in the experience. It doesn't have to be culinary or alcohol or anything like that. It could be something physical like a takeaway or something that you smell or kind of touch. But travelers want to be immersed and connected within the experience. And the last piece, let me try. So, I don't know, how many football fans are there in the audience? Right? Probably a few. How many of you, you're at a football match and there's a penalty kick coming up, right? Who wouldn't just like to have one go at that? Or maybe to be the goalie, right? So I'm from the US, I think of it like, baseball, right? Who wouldn't want to just be down and have one shot, at bat? So travelers increasingly don't just want to be observers and be told about what's going on. They want to be immersed. They want to have, a shot at cooking the thing, at doing the thing. We heard from Fritz yesterday about his experience in Buenos Aires doing the tango class, I think the dance class, and how he was taken to a very special neighborhood where only locals would go, and you got through the course and had a chance to do that dance. Really quite an extraordinary experience. Now, so we spend this time, however, talking about these special local, insidery experiences, but I do just want to keep in mind, lots of travelers still want the classic stuff. So the most popular stuff here is still tours and classic sites, landmarks, and attractions. And while we're talking a lot about traditional tour and attraction operators trying to become a little bit more experiential, local, insidery, Just an interesting trend that I've observed. If you look at some of those peer-to-peer sites and look at Airbnb, increasingly they are creating tours and experiences that are actually tied very much to classic attractions. And I just pulled up the website from With Locals, which is a kind of locals peer-to-peer site, and I was looking at their experiences in Bangkok. And the first one that comes up is Bangkok's must-do highlights tour, but it's with a local. So it's those classic attractions, but it is doing them in a slightly different way. So just like the traditional industry is going after the local experience, you know, those new players are realizing, you know, they're travelers. They still want to see the classic stuff. Anyone who's tried to go to the Royal Palace here over the last few days, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so we talked about the experience and what travelers want. I want to spend just a couple of minutes looking at the planning and booking process. How are travelers thinking about these activities? What is their behavior around shopping and also around booking, and what are some changes that we can expect? So here we are going to look at first. This is all travelers, and I wanted to compare flights and accommodations and tours, and we're looking at kind of the method. So is it kind of on their computer, on their phone, and is it in person? And so you can just get a sense here in terms of online booking. Yeah, the tours sector is really a bit, you know, behind in terms of online kind of booking. There's much more kind of offline or in-person booking. If we were to have attractions in here as well, we would see a similar dynamic, or even more offline. Still lots of in-person paper ticketing. Now let's look at this in a slightly different way. So here we're just looking at tours, and we're going to break this out by region. Okay, and we're going to look at device, so computer, phone, and in person, right? So here you can see, this is I think the most interesting. So online is, broadly it's quite big, except look down at the bottom, in person, in Asia. And remember, this is younger travelers. So that younger generation of travelers, much more likely in Asia to be booking on their phone or on their computer, much less likely to be booking in person. Very clear indication of where our marketplace is headed. Now, so what does this mean? What are some of the key takeaways from this? So the first, different travelers, different channels. And this is going to certainly be very clear for Asian travelers versus US and European travelers, especially those international inbound travelers. For them, it's a much bigger deal. It's a more complex purchase. Their markets they may not be as familiar with. You're going to see a lot more offline and a much more kind of complex journey from planning to booking. Asian travelers increasingly, especially those younger travelers, much more likely to be booking on their phones. The second, we are going to see a lot more advanced bookings. You might, and I know this might be a little bit surprising because we've been hearing over the past couple of days, so it's last minute, last minute, last minute. But it's not quite last minute. We are going to see more advanced bookings, but not like you'd expect. I know everyone would love to have more advanced bookings 2-3 weeks out or even months out so you can do your capacity planning, but what's really going to happen, driven by mobile, is the real jump in advanced bookings is going to be within that very close-in window. So it's going to be a day before, 2 days before, really 1 to 7 days in advance. This is where the major growth is going to be coming from in terms of that demand, where those bookings are, when they are going to be happening. So, what to do about this? And there's some pretty obvious things. So the first, shorten your advanced purchase minimum as much as possible. I know this is very challenging for certain types of operators. If you're contracting with lots of vendors that may not want to be as flexible in their own cancellation policies, but this is very, very important. As much as you can shorten that window, it's going to open you up to so much more demand. And the last piece, mobile. In case I wasn't clear about that, I think mobile is really pretty important. Not just that it's bookable, but all the ways in which your travelers are engaging and planning, whether it's through super apps, through search engine optimization, through advertising. It's always mobile first. Even now when we talk about startups and they're going to pitch to investors about the new product that they're developing, the new app that they're building, they are always pitching on mobile first. When we go to other travel conferences and there are startup competitions, if a startup gets up on stage and they start presenting from a desktop solution, they're going to automatically be flagged and kicked off the stage. Everything is mobile first. So this is just some highlights of the research that we do at Arrival. There's lots more at Arrival.travel. A lot of this is available all for free, so you can visit and have access to quite a bit. Thank you very much.